On the first day of spring, when the earth wakes up and turns green and the warm, sweet-smelling air touches our faces and fills our lungs, we feel a vague longing for freedom and happiness. It's like wanting to run around, wander without a plan, and breathe in the spring air. The past winter was very cold, so this spring feeling in May is like feeling a bit intoxicated, like there's too much sap around. One morning I woke up and looked out of my window. The sky was blue and shining in the sun above the nearby houses. Canaries in the windows were singing loudly, and so were the servants on every floor. Happy sounds came from the streets. I went outside, feeling as happy as the day, not really sure where I was going. Everyone I met seemed to be smiling, and there was a feeling of happiness in the warm spring light. It was almost like a breeze of love was flowing through the city. Seeing young women in their morning clothes, with a hidden kindness in their eyes, walking gracefully, made my heart flutter. Without knowing why, I ended up by the Seine River. Steamboats were going to Churisons, and suddenly, I really wanted to take a walk through the woods. The Mouche boat's deck was full of passengers because the early spring sun makes people leave their homes, and everyone moves around, goes back and forth, and talks to their neighbors. I had a girl who lived nearby, probably a little worker. She had that real Parisian charm, a small head with light, curly hair that looked like a sparkle of light when it danced in the wind. It reached down to her ears and went to the back of her neck, where it became such fine, light-colored hair that you could barely see it, but it made you want to shower it with kisses. As I kept looking at her, she turned her head toward me, then quickly looked down. A small crease at the side of her mouth, ready to turn into a smile, also had a fine, silky, pale down that the sun was making a little golden. The calm river got wider, the air was warm, and everything was very quiet, but there was a murmur of life filling all the space around us. My neighbor looked up again, and this time, as I kept looking at her, she smiled for sure. She was charming, and in that quick look, I saw 1,000 things I didn't know before. I saw unknown depths, all the charm of kindness, all the poetry we dream about, and all the happiness we're always looking for. I felt a crazy desire to open my arms and take her somewhere, so I could whisper sweet words of love into her ears. I was about to talk to her when someone tapped me on the shoulder. As I turned around, I saw a regular-looking man, not too young or too old, looking at me sadly. "I'd like to talk to you," he said. I made a face, which he probably noticed because he added, "It's important." So, I stood up and followed him to the other end of the boat. Then he said, "Sir, in winter, when it's cold, wet, and snowy, your doctor always tells you, keep your feet warm, watch out for chills, colds, bronchitis, rheumatism, and pleurisy. Then you're really careful. You wear warm clothes like flannel, a heavy coat, and thick shoes. But all that doesn't stop you from spending 2 months in bed. But when spring comes with leaves, flowers, warm breezes, and the smell of fields, making you feel uneasy and emotional for no reason, no one tells you, sir, beware of love. It's hiding everywhere, waiting for you at every corner, setting traps, sharpening weapons, preparing tricks. Beware of love. Beware of love. It's more dangerous than alcohol, bronchitis, or pleurisy. It never forgives and makes everyone do foolish things. Yes, sir, I say the French government should put big signs on walls saying, "Spring is back." French citizens, beware of love, just like they warn about paint. But since the government won't do that, I have to do it. I say to you, beware of love, because it's about to grab you, and it's my duty to tell you, just like in Russia when they tell someone their nose is frozen. I was surprised by this guy. Trying to sound important, I said, "Really, sir, it seems to me you're getting involved in something that's none of your business." He moved abruptly and said, "Ah, sir. If I see someone about to drown in a dangerous place, should I let them perish? So listen to my story, and you'll understand why I talk to you like this. It happened around this time last year. First, let me tell you, I work as a clerk in the Admiralty. Our bosses, the commissioners, take their important roles seriously, wearing gold lace and treating us like sailors on a ship. Well, from my office I could see a bit of blue sky and the swallows, and I felt like dancing among my papers. My desire for freedom became so strong that, despite not liking it, I went to see my boss, a short-tempered man always angry. When I told him I wasn't feeling well, he looked at me and said, "I don't believe it, sir, but go on. Do you think an office can function with clerks like you?" I left right away and went down the Seine. It was a day like today, and I took the mouche to go to St. Cloud. Oh, how good it would have been if my boss had refused my request to leave the office that day. I felt like expanding in the sun. I loved everything: the boat, the river, the trees, the houses, and the other passengers. I felt like kissing something, anything. It was love setting its trap. Soon, at the Trocadero, a girl with a small package in her hand came on board and sat across from me. She was pretty, but, sir, it's surprising how much prettier women seem when the day is fine at the beginning of spring. They have an enchanting charm, something special about them. It's like drinking wine after cheese. I looked at her, and she looked at me, but only occasionally, like that girl looked at you just now. But after constantly looking at each other, it felt like we knew each other well enough to talk. I spoke to her, and she replied. She was pretty and nice, and she made me feel intoxicated, sir. She got off at St. Cloud, and I followed her. She delivered her package, and when she returned, the boat had just left. I walked beside her, and the warm air made both of us sigh. "It would be very nice in the woods," I said. "Indeed it would," she replied. "Shall we go there for a walk, miss?" She gave me a quick look to figure out what kind of person I was. After a little pause, she agreed to my suggestion, and soon we were walking together in the woods. Under the still sparse leaves, the tall, thick, bright green grass was soaked in sunlight. The air was filled with insects also showing affection to each other, and birds were singing all around. My companion started jumping and running, excited by the country air and scent, and I ran and jumped, copying her. "We can be quite silly at times, sir." Then she sang freely all sorts of things, opera tunes and the Musette song. The Musette song felt so poetic to me, I almost got teary-eyed. Those silly songs can make us lose our minds. And believe me, never marry a woman who sings in the country, especially if she sings the Musette song. She got tired soon and sat down on a grassy slope. I sat at her feet, holding her hands, her little hands marked by the needle, which moved me. I thought to myself, these are the sacred marks of hard work. Oh, sir, do you know what those sacred marks of hard work mean? They mean all the gossip from the workplace, whispered scandals, minds tainted by all the dirt that's talked about. They mean lost purity, senseless chatter, all the misery of their everyday life, all the narrow-mindedness that comes with women from lower classes, all concentrated in the girl whose fingers bear the sacred marks of hard work. Then we looked into each other's eyes for a long time. Oh, the power a woman's eye holds! How it stirs us, takes over our very being and controls us. How deep it seems, filled with endless promises. People call that looking into each other's souls. Oh, Sir, what nonsense! If we could see into each other's souls, we would be more careful about what we do. Nevertheless, I was captivated and infatuated with her. I tried to embrace her, but she said, "Hands off." So, I knelt down, opened my heart to her, and poured out all the affection choking me. She seemed surprised by my change of mood and gave me a sidelong look, as if to say, "Ah. So, that's how women make a fool of you, old fellow. Very well, we shall see." In love, sir, we are always beginners, and women are clever dealers. Certainly, I could have had her, and I realized my own foolishness later. But what I wanted wasn't just a woman, it was love, it was the ideal. I was sentimental when I should have been more practical. As soon as she had enough of my affectionate declarations, she stood up and we went back to St. Cloud. I didn't leave her until we reached Paris, but she looked so sad on the way back that I finally asked her what was wrong. "I am thinking," she replied, "that this has been one of those rare days in life." My heart was beating so fast it felt like it would break my ribs. I saw her the next Sunday and every Sunday after that. I took her to Bougival, Saint-Germain, Maisons Laffitte, Poissy, every suburban spot for lovers. The little rascal, in return, pretended to love me until, in the end, I completely lost my mind, and 3 months later, I married her. What can you expect, sir, when a man is a clerk, living alone, with no family or anyone to advise him? You tell yourself, how sweet life would be with a wife. So, you get married, and she calls you names from morning till night, understands nothing, knows nothing, talks constantly, sings the Musette song loudly, oh. That Musette song, how tired one gets of it, argues with the coal dealer, tells the janitor all her domestic details, shares all the secrets of her bedroom with the neighbor's servant, discusses her husband with the shopkeepers, and has her head so filled with silly stories, idiotic superstitions, strange ideas, and crazy prejudices that I, speaking more about myself, cry in frustration every time I talk to her. He paused, a bit out of breath and quite emotional. I looked at him, feeling sorry for this poor, simple guy. I was about to say something when the boat stopped. We had reached St. Cloud. The little woman who had caught my attention stood up to get off. She walked close to me, gave me a quick glance, and a sneaky smile, one of those smiles that make you go crazy. Then she hopped onto the landing stage. I rushed forward to follow her, but my neighbor grabbed my arm. I shook myself free, but he grabbed the hem of my coat, pulling me back, yelling, "You shall not go. You shall not go," so loudly that everyone turned around and laughed. I stood there, angry and still, not daring to face scandal and mockery. The steamboat started. The little woman on the landing stage looked at me with a disappointed expression as I sailed away, while my troublemaker rubbed his hands and whispered to me, "You have to admit I did you a great favor."